Barcelona are doing everything they can to sign Julian Alvarez, but not everyone inside the dressing room is on board. Reports claim 4 first-team players, Ferran Torres, Gavi, Pedri, and Rafinha, don't want the Argentine joining the club. And the reasons behind their stance have sparked an even bigger controversy. Let's get into it. On Sunday night, Julian Alvarez walked out at the World Cup final lined up against several of the same Atletico Madrid teammates he trains with every day. The Spider also faced some of the players he might join at Barcelona should his transfer go through. Though nothing is confirmed yet, that's the backdrop. A player who spent the tournament proving he belongs on the biggest stage, stepping back into a transfer saga that's dragged on for the better part of a year. Everybody knew where Alvarez stood personally. He has publicly declared his wish to leave Atletico and join his boyhood club Barcelona. That much was never in doubt. The doubt has always come from the other side of the negotiating table. Yet his club keep blocking the exit. Atletico stand firm, insisting they will not sell their striker, and certainly not to Barcelona. And this wasn't some vague front office mood. This came from the top. Chief Executive Miguel Angel Gil Marin confirmed that stance categorically. On 17 July, no wiggle room, no maybe. Atletico's own CEO stood in front of cameras and shut the door. But here's where it gets interesting, because while all that public posturing was happening between the two clubs, a very different story was brewing inside Barcelona's own dressing room. And this is the part that actually blindsided people. At Barcelona, some would happily leave things as they are. That is what Catalan newspaper El Nacional reported on Wednesday. Several Barcelona players, the paper claims, are unenthusiastic about signing Alvarez. Not the fans, not the pundits, the actual players who'd be sharing a locker room with him. What makes this jump off the page is how much it contradicts everything that had been reported just weeks earlier. The report jars sharply with what Spanish newspaper Sport published at the end of last June. Back then, Sport confirmed that Barcelona players had been pleasantly surprised by the Argentine's media appearances, viewing him as a valuable addition to the squad. So the mood inside Camp Nou apparently flipped, from cautiously welcoming to actively cold. In the space of about 3 weeks, El Nacional tells a different story. There is no consensus on his arrival, it says, and 4 Barcelona players in particular are unhappy about the prospect. 4 names, not anonymous squad murmurs. Specific, identifiable players with specific, identifiable reasons. Let's start with the one whose situation is the most tangled up in all of this, Ferran Torres. Take Ferran Torres, who reckons he is more than capable of being a key man. His pride is wounded. Torres is now giving serious thought to a move to Paris Saint-Germain this summer. Think about what that actually means. Barcelona brings in a superstar forward that costs a fortune, and the guy fighting for that same central striking role reads it as a vote of no confidence in him personally. Then there's Gavi and Pedri, who don't need their own separate grievance, they're standing with Ferran. Gavi and Pedri are lukewarm too, the paper confirmed. Both are close to Ferran and enjoy a good relationship with him, so they would not welcome the signing of the Spider. This isn't a tactical disagreement, it's loyalty to a teammate they came up with. A guy they trust in the locker room, watching him potentially get squeezed out or shipped off, because the club wants a bigger name. And then Rafinha, whose objection isn't about pride at all, it's about math. Rafinha's name also crops up. The Brazilian believes that, having already signed Anthony Gordon and Karim Adeyemi, the club have no need to splash €150 million on Alvarez. From where Rafinha is standing, the attacking positions are already full. 2 fresh signings already walked through the door. Why spend 9 figures more on a third? 4 players, 3 separate flavors of frustration, wounded pride, teammate solidarity, and squad math. All pointing the same direction. None of them want Julian Alvarez walking into that dressing room this summer. Let's slow down on Ferran Torres, because his situation is the loudest thread in this entire story. And it didn't start with Alvarez, it's been building for weeks, tangled up with a World Cup final. That should have been the best moment of his career. Torres scored the goal that won Spain the tournament, latching onto a header across the box from Nico Williams, his decisive left-footed strike. Under the crossbar was his only goal of the 2026 World Cup. Yet it was enough to end Lionel Messi's title defense and crown Spain champions. That's the kind of moment that's supposed to cement a player's status at his club. Instead, it's become the thing agents are using as leverage in a completely different negotiation, over in Paris. Because while Ferran was celebrating with Spain, Barcelona's front office was already treating him as someone on the way out. Ferran Torres is the subject of interest from Liverpool and Paris Saint-Germain, according to a report from L'Equipe journalist Tanzi Like. The Spanish international forward has been declared for sale by Barcelona, with his contract set to expire at the end of next season. The 26-year-old looks set to depart the Camp Nou before the summer transfer window closes, so that Barcelona can avoid making another payment to Manchester City for the attacker. That's a club actively pushing a player out the door before his own contract even runs down. And PSG haven't been subtle about wanting him. PSG are eager to complete their summer business within the next 2 weeks, and view Ferran as a priority attacking reinforcement following Gonçalo Ramos' departure. The French champions are prepared to offer the Spain international a significantly improved salary, with manager Luis Enrique believed to be a driving force behind the move, after previously placing great trust in Ferran with the national team. Enrique isn't a stranger reaching out cold. He's the manager who coached Ferran. With the national team, the guy who trusts him, calling personally to sell him on a fresh start. The financial logic on Barcelona's end only sharpens the picture. Torres is in the final year of his deal at the Camp Nou, which means he will be free to negotiate with foreign clubs from January and could leave on a free transfer next summer. That reality makes this window the last realistic opportunity for Barcelona to recover a meaningful fee for a player they signed from Manchester City in January 2022 for €55 million. Sell him now for something or watch him walk for nothing next year. That's the calculation the club is making, whether Ferran likes it or not. Now drop Alvarez into the middle of that. Barcelona is already telling Ferran, through its actions, that it's ready to move on without him. Then reports surface that the club wants to spend a fortune on another forward for the exact same part of the pitch, with Anthony Gordon and Karim Adeyemi already arriving this summer. Ferran also knows he could face another season competing for minutes unless Barca fail to sign another center forward. From his seat, it doesn't read as squad building. It reads as being replaced twice over. That's the wounded pride El Nacional described. Ferran believes he's more than good enough to lead the line, and every transfer headline this summer has quietly told him the club disagrees. So he's doing what any player in his position would consider, looking at the door PSG has left open, weighing a Real Madrid interest too, according to some reports, and deciding whether staying at Barcelona still makes sense. The tension didn't stop there either. Recently crowned world champion, Torres must discuss his future with Barcelona in the coming days once the World Cup title won with Spain has finished being celebrated. But the Catalan club is already beginning to come to terms with this case, according to the local sports outlet Sport. The hope for extension is even seen as complicated, and the initial plan to wait until September now seems completely out of the question. Barcelona dragged its feet on a new deal, and now the delay has left the club scrambling, and that's the piece Gavi and Pedri are reacting to. They're not weighing in on a transfer fee or a tactical fit. They're watching a guy they came up with, a guy in their circle, get pushed toward the exit while the club chases a marquee name to replace him. Their objection to Alvarez isn't really about Alvarez at all. It's solidarity with a teammate who feels cornered. If Ferran's objection is personal, Rafinha's is closer to pure arithmetic. And to understand it, you have to look at what Barcelona has already done to its front line this summer. Before Alvarez even entered the conversation, the club has been busy, very busy. Barcelona have requested a €210 million credit line as they prepare to strengthen their squad under Hansi Flick ahead of the new season. The funding is expected to support moves for Julian Alvarez, João Cancelo, and Karim Adeyemi, while also helping the club manage its day-to-day financial commitments. That's not a club trimming its wish list down to one priority signing. That's a club trying to fund 3 or 4 deals at once. 2 of those attacking additions are already essentially locked in. Barcelona's been closing in on both Anthony Gordon and Karim Adeyemi for weeks, and reporting has repeatedly tied both names to the same forward positions Rafinha occupies. From his vantage point in the front 3, that's already 2 new bodies fighting for minutes on the wings and up front before a single Alvarez conversation even gets finished. So when the transfer fee attached to Alvarez gets thrown around, it's not an abstract number to Rafinha. It's the number that could have gone toward extending or strengthening the group already assembled. And that number keeps climbing depending on who you ask. One report out of Spain put Atletico's valuation in stark terms. That's upfront in cash, Sport explains, with no margin to negotiate deferred payments or lower the asking price by including Barca players in a potential part exchange deal. No discount, no creative structuring, cash, full price, no exceptions. Other outlets have pushed the number even higher. Barcelona have been met with a firm no. in the form of a €200 million valuation for Alvarez, according to Cadena Ser. After making internal inquiries about the World Cup winner's availability, the Blaugrana were informed that any deal would require the second highest transfer fee ever paid, trailing only the €222 million Neymar move to Paris Saint-Germain in 2017. That's the scale Rafinha's looking at, not a squad-balancing signing, a historic outlay for a position the club has already spent heavily to fill twice over. Barcelona's own financial reality makes the objection even more understandable. To bridge the gap, Barcelona would likely need to sanction several high-profile departures to balance their books. Without a significant shift in their economic standing, matching a €200 million, asking price remains an impossible task under La Liga's strict salary cap regulations, which means every euro chasing Alvarez is a euro that has to come from somewhere else in the squad. Sales, departures, belt-tightening elsewhere. Rafinha isn't wrong to wonder whether that money might be better spent or simply not spent at all, given how crowded the front line already is. The strange twist is that some of the men actually running Barcelona's transfer strategy have voiced a version of the same doubt. According to the Catalan newspaper, sporting director Deco and manager Hansi Flick feel the player's price is inflated, and that the money is better spent on a cheaper option. That's not four disgruntled players venting anonymously. That's the sporting director and the head coach, the two people steering recruitment, looking at the same price tag and arriving at Rafinha's exact conclusion. There's been reporting that reflects both directions of that tug-of-war inside the building. One report described the alignment at the very top of the club as fully behind the move. Manager Hansi Flick, sporting director Deco, and president Joan Laporta are all understood to be universally aligned regarding their high admiration for the Argentine forward, viewing him as an absolute dream signing to lead the team's frontline. Other reporting paints Deco and Flick as more hesitant on the price specifically, even while admiring the player. Either way, the tension around the number itself hasn't gone away, and it's the exact tension Rafinha has been airing inside the dressing room. So while Ferran's objection comes from wounded pride and Gavi and Pedri's comes from loyalty, Rafinha's comes from a spreadsheet. Two new attackers already walking through the door, a transfer fee that could break records, and a squad that, in his view, simply doesn't need a third marquee forward added on top. So if four players don't want it, and even the sporting director has cold feet on the price, why is this deal still alive at all? Because one man at Barcelona has made his position unmistakably clear, and he happens to be the president. Joan Laporta disagrees. The Barca president has made Julian Alvarez his priority. That single sentence explains why the story hasn't died, despite every internal objection stacked against it. Laporta isn't treating Alvarez as one option among several. He's treating him as the signing that defines the summer. And Laporta's public comments back that up. According to reporting from transfer insider Fabrizio Romano, Barcelona president Joan Laporta stated that they have sent a new offer, which he described as very good, and are awaiting Atletico's response. Laporta also added that the offer is not valid forever. That's not the language of a president who's lukewarm. That's someone applying pressure, putting a clock on his own club's proposal, to try and force Atletico's hand. Behind him, according to some reporting, the football department has quietly been laying groundwork of its own. After openly admitting that he wants to leave Atletico Madrid, the transfer battle surrounding one of the world's most sought-after forwards appears to be entering a crucial stage. In that context, according to La Vanguardia, Barcelona have already agreed the framework of a 5-year contract with Alvarez, a personal terms agreement already on the table, even while the transfer fee remains completely unresolved. That's how far down the road Barcelona has traveled on paper, even as their own players push back in the dressing room. But Atletico haven't blinked. The club's stance has been described as close to absolute. Atletico Madrid have made it clear they do not plan to negotiate with clubs over the sale of striker Julian Alvarez, reports in Spain say. Under contract until 2030 and a key part of Diego Simon's side, Alvarez is seen as untransferable, and Los Rojiblancos are adamant they will not even entertain approaches from Arsenal, Barcelona, or any other interested sides. That's not posturing for leverage. That's a club drawing a line and refusing to move it, no matter how good Barcelona's offer looks on paper. Every time Barcelona has pushed, Atletico has pushed back harder on price. Barcelona continues to pursue Julian Alvarez, but Atletico Madrid has rejected all of the several offers. The Catalan club has already sent for the Argentine. Multiple bids, multiple rejections. And even as Barcelona's front office keeps circling back, there's reporting that the club has started drawing its own red line, rather than continuing to chase Atletico's number. FC Barcelona have decided to maintain their strict economic boundaries regarding the pursuit of Atletico Madrid striker Julian Alvarez, firmly refusing to increase their existing transfer proposal. That refusal to blink has forced Barcelona to start looking elsewhere, quietly, in case the whole thing collapses. Deco's been floated as exploring cheaper alternatives, and outside reporting has specifically named who those alternatives might be. Due to the costs involved, Barcelona considers Darwin Núñez and Dusan Vlahovic to be more realistic options than Alvarez. Names that wouldn't require breaking the bank, wouldn't require selling half the squad to balance the books, and notably wouldn't set off the same alarm bells inside the dressing room that Alvarez apparently has. There's a human cost buried in that fallback plan too. The signing of Núñez would disappoint Barcelona fans after strong reported links with Alvarez, which tells you how deep the Alvarez expectation has sunk into the fanbase, even while the players who'd actually share a locker room with him keep signaling they'd rather it not happen. And it's not just Barcelona in this race, which adds even more pressure to Laporta's timeline. Arsenal have intensified their pursuit of Atletico Madrid forward Julian Alvarez, as Mikel Arteta reportedly looks to secure his primary attacking target before the start of pre-season. The Gunners are hoping to capitalize on Atletico, taking a firm stance against selling the Argentina international to Barcelona. If Barcelona hesitates while its own players grumble internally, there's a real chance somebody else simply walks in and takes the player off the market entirely. So that's the picture heading into the closing stretch of this saga. A president fully committed, a sporting director and manager privately unconvinced on price, 4 first-team players who don't want the signing at all, an Argentine World Cup winner who said publicly he wants to come, and a selling club that, as of right now, has no intention of letting him leave for anyone. So where does this leave Barcelona heading into the rest of the window? Messy, honestly, and that messiness is exactly what makes this such a strange story. To be sitting inside a transfer saga that hasn't even produced a transfer yet. Ferran Torres is still weighing Paris against Madrid against staying put, all while his own club has quietly told the market he's available. Gavi and Pedri remain firmly in his corner, uninterested in watching a friend get squeezed out to make room for someone else. Rafinha is still doing the math on a front line that already has 2 new faces walking through the door this summer, wondering why a third, record-breaking name needs to join them too. And on the business side of the building, Deco and Flick keep circling back to the same conclusion, that the fee simply doesn't add up even if the player himself does. None of that has stopped Laporta. He's the one variable in this entire equation who hasn't wavered even slightly. And as long as he's steering the ship, Alvarez stays the priority regardless of who inside Camp Nou would rather he didn't sign. That's the tension holding this whole story together. A president pulling one direction, a chunk of his own dressing room quietly pulling the other, and a selling club refusing to budge for either of them. Atletico's position hasn't cracked either. Every offer sent has come back rejected, every deadline Laporta's set has passed without a response Barcelona wanted. And Simon's side has shown no sign of treating this transfer window any differently than the last one. If anything, the longer this drags, the more it looks like Arsenal or another suitor could simply end the conversation by paying what Atletico's actually asking. And that's really the situation as it stands. 4 players who'd rather Alvarez stayed at the Metropolitano. A president who wants him more than almost any signing he's chased in years. A sporting department stuck in the middle, torn between admiration for the player and discomfort with the number attached to him. And a striker who's made his preference clear, still waiting to see if any of it actually turns into a move. Whether Alvarez ends up at Camp Nou or not, the dressing room he'd be walking into is already more complicated than anyone outside the building expected. 4 names went public with their hesitation, and however this transfer resolves, that hesitation is now part of the story, whether Alvarez ever puts on the shirt or not. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.